So, I said I was going to do more NBA mock drafts between now and post-NBA Finals, actually, as we actually get to the 2021 NBA Draft, and I'm here to do another one today. It's another one-round edition. You can check out all 30 picks that I've mocked out here in the description box below. Also, a good reminder, in the weeks to come, I'll be talking more about the NBA Draft on my Twitter account. Make sure you follow me on there. And make sure you subscribe to the channel, too, if you enjoy NBA talk, if you enjoy shitting on me for my NBA talk. Either way, subscribing will be a great way to help support that, continuing and making sure that you get updated so that way you can get out of it whatever you need. Now, for today's mock draft, I took a slightly different approach. When I do mock drafts traditionally for NFL and lesser degree NBA, but certainly with the NFL, I'll try to play out different scenarios at different times, different mindsets, different approaches, like looking at it. And this is a truly best player available draft, regardless of position or fit. In some cases, it's a what if this happens or what if that happens, then what would that cause downstream? Today with this mock, I'm just looking at this strictly from a need-only standpoint. Need only. So looking at teams and identifying what I feel is either their number one or number two need, and then saying, hey, they're drafting solely based off need here. And I just wanted to see like how much that would change the draft board and how much differently things would feel afterwards. And I will say there were certainly some changes. There's certainly a little bit of shifting. Not a fundamental overhaul to my draft board, though. So I think for a lot of teams, they can feel kind of good about the fact that in a lot of their cases, the value in terms of the talent on the board with where they're drafting will closely align with their needs, which you kind of kill two birds with one stone. You're trying to get talent, you're trying to fill holes and fill needs if possible. And a lot of teams, I think, are going to be able to feel comfortable doing that in this draft, especially because this draft certainly looks like it is better than this past draft that we had. Still plenty of time for that past draft to step up and show more, but certainly was not a great class. This one feels like it's filled with some bona fide guys at the top and some other second-level guys in the rest of the lottery, maybe slightly outside of the lottery. That could be some big-time players in the league. Now, starting off with the Houston Rockets, they are, at the moment, since we haven't had the lottery yet, they sit with the number one overall pick. Sure feels like Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma State is going to be the guy at this moment. Certainly could change, but it feels that way at this moment. And I totally get it for Houston. Like, they could either look at him as a James Harden type for them, or maybe the more realistic thing, you're looking at him more of like a Luka Doncic light. And even like he'd be a James Harden very light. He's not nearly got the scoring abilities of a Harden, but Houston needs a franchise player. They need somebody that they can retool, reload, and rebuild around. And it feels like for them, Cade Cunningham is the most logical option. You can play him at the 3. You can play him at the 2. Maybe when you go a little bigger in terms of your backcourt lineups, you could play him some at the point. Although I feel like he's better off as a either secondary ball handler or somebody that creates the offense but doesn't necessarily bring the ball up the court. Feels like he's more in that 2-3 mold, similar to, like I said, Luka Doncic. But for Houston, he feels like the right guy at this moment. I still feel like in terms of need, Jalen Green represents the biggest filling of a need for them. They need a scorer. They need a perimeter scorer more than they need an athletic big man who could block shots and defend the paint. Jalen Green feels much more capable as being that dude that fills the biggest need for them than maybe an Evan Mobley or even a Jalen Suggs does. So I've got them taking Jalen Green at 2. Number 3, Orlando with Evan Mobley. Here you could say, well, they've got Jonathan Isaac coming back, and they've got Wendell from the ACL injury, and they traded for Wendell Carter, and that's all fine and good, but, you think Mobley can be special, then you're sending Carter or Isaac to the fucking bench. That's what you're doing. And for them, they have needs everywhere. Like, they're in a bad spot. They started their rebuild. They traded away their key pieces. Like, it's time to retool. There's no more Vucevic. There's no more Gordon. There's no more Fournier. Like, this is a dramatically different-looking Magic organization. And for them, it probably feels like Evan Mobley would be the guy that they would want to draft here. That's my opinion. 4 at Oklahoma City. When I look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I don't know that Jalen Suggs truly fits the biggest need for them. It might be somebody more like a Kuminga, a guy that has some upside at the 3 and the 4. Although I am not fully sold yet that he quite belongs in that top tier of picks in this draft class. But I could see a team like Oklahoma City looking at him and saying, yeah, whereas Jalen Suggs will be better right away, Jalen Suggs is a bit of duplication against what we already have, and you're trying to spread out your talent a little bit, although I don't think they could really be in a position to be picky or choosy. That said, Kuminga could represent something different for them, and I could see them potentially landing on him. 5 with Cleveland. You might say, well, Jalen Suggs, they've already got Darius Garland, they've got Colin Sexton. Yeah, they've got 2 6'1", 6'2" point guards. They've got a very small-ass backcourt. Jalen Suggs comes in more in the 6'3", 6'4" range. He could be your primary distributor and ball handler. He could play off the ball some too. I still think he fills a need, but I wouldn't be surprised if they went in a slightly different direction with that pick ultimately. A lot of mocks right now, even ones I've done previously, have had Kuminga going there, which I could certainly see that, especially defensively. You could think about Okoro defending 2s and 3s, and maybe Kuminga defending 3s and some 4s. It could make sense. Golden State, when you're talking about team need, I think it comes down to wanting to get somebody that can defend on the perimeter, and that's even either Davion Mitchell or Scottie Barnes. I like Barnes slightly more for him if we're going strictly off of need, because I think Barnes' defense, he can guard all 5 positions, where with Davion Mitchell, you're primarily talking about he can guard the 1 and then some 2s, some combo guards. Barnes can defend all 5 positions. What's his offensive upside remains to be seen, but if you're the Warriors, you're in a place when you're talking about true needs, like you want guys that can come in and play a role and contribute. They can play alongside Steph. They could potentially play alongside Clay if he can ever stay healthy again. I look at Scottie Barnes. Maybe they feel like he could do some Draymond Green type of things within their system. He feels like he would be the best chance at addressing a need with that 6th pick. For Toronto at 7, Moses Moody makes a world of sense. I think the skills translate really well to the NFL level, and they need some size in the backcourt. You've got Lowry, you've got Van Fleet, so you've got a couple of shorter guys there. I feel like they could use a more legitimate 2-guard, and Moses Moody certainly fits that bill. For Orlando at 8, maybe they gamble on somebody like a Jalen Johnson. They want to take somebody that plays kind of that Aaron Gordon 3-4 type of role. Sacramento with Kai Jones. I wonder where he's going to get drafted, because I think you're going to see talk about his range being all over the place, like where I've got him in the top 10, other people mocking him in late lottery, other people mocking him slightly outside of the lottery in the early 20s. I just imagine somebody's going to buy into that athletic upside in a draft that's not exactly loaded with big men at both the 4 and 5 position, and looking at Kai Jones and saying that athletic package is incredibly appealing, and he has some plays that when you watch him that are just, especially end to end, are truly special. They're just few and far between. You have lots of other work to do. He's inconsistent. He's very raw. But I can see a team like Sacramento, from a need standpoint, they need an athletic big like this, and he could certainly fit the bill. New Orleans getting Davion Mitchell. They need a point guard, especially if they let Lonzo Ball walk in free agency or he chooses to go either way. Even with that, he could have been a guy that could have played with Lonzo Ball, so Lonzo could have played off the ball a little bit more. Charlotte at 11, Keon Johnson. Again, another situation where you may be looking for a little more size on the wing, especially in the backcourt. Keon Johnson's a great athlete. They could use some athleticism and size in that backcourt. San Antonio at 12, man. You look at a guy like Corey Kispert. Doesn't he just feel like a Greg Popovich type of pick? Doesn't seem to have the most upside, but he can shoot. He can defend a little. Smart, experienced player that can likely come in and contribute right away for the Spurs. Indianapolis at 13, or excuse me, Indiana. Why did I say Indianapolis? It's not the Colts, it's the fucking Pacers. Bouknight has a chance to be a little bit of a steal if he falls into this range. Kind of hard to know where he's going to go, but he can certainly score in Indiana. Like the thought of him and LeVert playing out on the wing together could be exciting. And then kind of rounding out the lottery, I've got Josh Giddey, the point guard from Australia, going to Golden State at 14. Like you've seen previous mocks where I've had, the last mock I think I had Davion Mitchell going 6 to Golden State, because I looked at him, they're thinking of maybe you have a secondary ball handler, somebody that could defend the point position so you could hide Curry somewhere else. But now you get to 14 here, you're looking at Giddey. Now, do I really think he sticks at point guard long term? No. How far away is he from being a real offensive threat? Quite a bit. Needs a lot of work on his shooting, just his offensive game overall. Like, are you looking at him potentially being a Ricky Rubio type of point guard? Maybe. But you can bring him into the fold here with Golden State, and, you hope that his vision, his passing skills, you can find a place for that and a role initially, and then you're thinking about long-term upside here with the young man. But as you just look again, look at the top 30 picks, these are all just, as I'm looking at it, based off of need and primarily need alone. That doesn't mean I would agree with these teams drafting some of these players in some cases. That doesn't mean that it's where I have them as a reflection in terms of the overall big board. In some cases that's true, in some cases it's absolutely not. It's just me trying to take a stab at, if each of these teams drafted solely based off of need, here's what they would do. Nothing more to read into it than that.